Got a little Vibro-Champ reverb reissue here. It's not a 68, real 68, despite the cosmetics. It's one of the new ones. And the owner says hums. I have not heard any hum. Doesn't quite feel right. Now that can be a tricky thing for a tech, because what is feel right supposed to be for an owner? And is this an amp that they've had for a long time and it's changed in sound, or did they just get it and it doesn't sound as they expected? So that's one of my least favorite tickets to get in. But in this case, I can hear what he's talking about. So I'll let you hear it. If I play softly, and I've got the volume up at a little over 6. If I play softly, sounds okay. If I play a little bit harder and have some low frequencies, you'll hear it. And what that sound often is either one of the output tubes is not working very well, in which case you will have that kind of distortion, and you will have hum as they're drawing different currents, or something in the circuit is failing so that the signal is not getting to the two tubes equally, or it could be a bad filter cap, and with modern Fenders that can be a likelihood. So now that I know that there actually is a problem, I can open this amp up. When I get a nebulous problem description like doesn't quite feel right, I don't want to open it until I can agree with them or call them and get a better articulated explanation of the issue that they've encountered. Because in the past, I have opened an amp up and done the whole thing to find that it is entirely healthy. They had just never played a deluxe reverb before, and they expected to sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan out of the gate. I'm not belittling guitarists. We all are guilty of, if I only had X, then I would be where I want to be. You know, buying tone or buying lifestyles. In this case, the owner is absolutely correct, and so with a clear conscience, I can open this up and begin the billable hours and see what's up with it. So we'll do that next. Well, I just said a really stupid thing right before this. I said that the output tubes are drawing different amounts of current, forgetting that it was in fact a Champ, which only has the one. It's a single-ended amp. Sorry, I had a friend over not long ago with a Princeton and a similar sized amp, and was thinking Princeton. But no, it is the 68 custom Vibro-Champ reverb. So I've not had one of these. We'll take a look at it. First of all, let's do what I do on all the reissues as I come in. Make sure all the hardware is tight. Speaker jack was not. It's hard to do this one-handed. I'll do this real quick and report back with two hands. Okay, the input jacks were tight. The speaker and foot switch were not. This is a new model. I've not had this on my bench before. The radial electrolytics are less likely to fail than the axial IC brand. Though these feel pretty warm to me. The amp was just on. They feel warmer than I would expect from just the heat of a single 6v6. Things I cannot communicate in these videos very well are temperature and smell. I feel things to see what gets hot, and these caps should not be getting hot, but they all feel very warm, which can be a sign of too much current. There's a little digital reverb chip there. That's the reverb in this. There's no tank. And other than that, it's fairly standard PCB stuff. The output tube, fortunately, is not PCB in terms of the socket. So the first thing I'm going to do before tilting any unnecessary windmills is I'm going to change out that 6v6, because that, go with the simplest solution first. Let's see how that sounds. All right, I've got a new Electro-Harmonix 6v6 in, and I'm running through its cab. I've got an extension cable going to the speaker, and it's a Celestion 1030, the new one. They also use it in the Princeton, the 68 custom Princeton. And I have the same problem. Now, I have run into this problem with a lot of the 68 custom Princetons that have this Celestion speaker. What does it say on it here? Celestion 1030. In my experience, these speakers absolutely blow. They just cannot handle low end and they die. The voice coil is not up to the task. So, without changing anything on the amp, now I'm going to plug into my shop 2x12 and see if the sound changes, aside from 2x12 versus a single 10. Let's see if that broken up low end goes away. Now there's still a fizziness, a fuzziness. It's definitely better with the real speakers, but time to roll some preamp tubes. Let me do that and check back with you. Okay, had a weak 12AX7. So now with the 12AX7 swapped out temporarily, and still with the Electro-Harmonix 6v6, I will retest the groove tubes it came with, which looks to be a JJ. That's in my shop cab. Let's put that back through the little 1030 Celestion to see how it's doing. Just because I have had bad experiences with a speaker in the past does not mean that it is in fact bad. Let's see how it sounds with the same stuff. Yep, bad speaker. All right, so we had two things happening in this amp. We've got a bad Celestion 1030, and a bad Celestion 1030 is the same thing as any Celestion 1030 in my experience. Sorry, it's just a bum speaker. So this needs a new 10-inch speaker, and it's nice that the Vibro-Champ has a 10-inch speaker versus the 8 that most of them actually had. The 10's infinitely better. I don't care what was done in 1964. The 8-inch speakers in the old 60s Vibro-Champs were the same crap that you'd find in the door of a Chevy. And it had a bad preamp tube, and I have not had to solder anything. So this is going to be a very minor bill as far as my time goes. Before I sign off, let me swap out that 6v6 and just make sure that groove tubes actually is good. I can do that while talking. So a high quality, good preamp tube is going to be $15 to $22 typically. It had a JJ. The JJ failed. All tubes fail. JJs are not better or worse than others, especially on these amps that are shipped a long way before they're even played. So I can put a JJ in there for about $12, $15. I can put a tongue saw, which would be my preference, for about $22, I think. $17 to $22. And let's test that groove tube 6v6. Wow, this is really tough to do while it's hot. And when while I'm talking to you guys, when the chassis is out of the cabinet, those electrolytic tubes aren't getting hot, so it's not a problem with the excess current draw as I wanted to check out. It's just trapped heat, and these little vents don't do enough. But it should be okay. It's not 85 degrees Celsius hot in there. It's just warm to the touch. So let's see how it's sounding now. I plug it back into my cab rather than this Celestion. So a temporary new preamp tube, the existing GT labeled JJ 6v6, and my speakers. Let's see how the low end sounds here. That's normal at the startup. Remember, that's with the volume at like 7. If I turn that down to 5, I need to find some new things to play in these videos. I'm sick of myself. So let me call the owner, let him know he needs one new preamp tube and a new 10-inch speaker, and I can hook him up with some speakers which are inexpensive and sound infinitely better than the Celestion. So, and I won't have to get in here and fiddle with any of this digital stuff. So everyone wins. Okay, here's that little Vibro-Champ 68 custom Vibro-Champ with a new G10C speaker, and the magnet in the G10C is quite a bit larger than that Celestion 1030 or 3010, whatever it's called. What is that thing called? G10R30, the 1030. Tiny little magnet. Now granted, a Vibro-Champ does not need to have a lot of wattage, and so in a sense this is overkill, but it'll just sound really good. It was not expensive, and it's one of the absolute best sounding options on the market. That said, this thing used to have this silly metal plate contraption back here, and the opening is just big enough for that Celestion and will not fit with this warehouse or any real speaker, and it serves no real function, you know. It's just a big piece of metal to make the thing heavier and to vibrate loose. Now, if the owner wants to, he can go to the hardware store and find what size screws these are. I think they're an M6 or an something, or maybe it may be SAE, it may be metric. Anyway, I don't have a nut that fits that, but if you find the nuts that fit that, you can put these screws on the back here with the nuts on the other side, and these holes will look stock from the outside. Given the low cost of the amplifier, I'm not going to expend any more effort on it because I'd have to bill him for the time. But you know, you can take one of these screws to a hardware store and go through all the nuts until you find the one that matches with it. Get 4 of those and put these screws with their nuts back on this panel. It'll look stock to the outside world if you care. This is not very flexible. It's a short span, so the amp does not need it. It's just this cosmetic thing with these 4 screw holes here, which are easily plugged. So this will be returned with the amp, and you'll get to hear this in just a moment.